What's up, everybody? My name is BX78, aka Brandon. This is episode 43 of the Anime Dojo. I'm alongside Chris and Deon. Gentlemen, how you doing?
All
Feeling,
right.
bruh.
So we have a couple things to get into. We're going to get into two questions. One, we're going to talk about Crunchyroll and Funimation finally figuring out their stuff about linking things together. We'll get into that because they have a statement and all that. People are not very happy with it. We'll get into why. And we're also going to get into a weird story from Otaku News, which is the Instagram account we use to kind of find these stories, dealing with a voice actor doing another voice acting thing and what he did in that game, that thing he was doing, which was a game, and why it's getting so much backlash. We'll get into that. Then we'll get into charts, and we only have one episode tonight. Soul Leveling, episode 6. The episode everybody's been looking forward to, and the episode everybody was so hyped for after watching it. We'll get in that, do the review after, and I'll tell you something from the manhwa that's very interesting about the episode. That doesn't the episode itself doesn't that kind of takes it away. But we'll get into that as well. Let's start off with this first question. So Crunchyroll and Funimation have officially done their merger in the sense that everything is kind of migrated over. You can officially link your accounts, all that kind of stuff. You get a Crunchyroll. If you're on Crunchyroll already, you get a message saying, hey, do you want to link these accounts? Go ahead, or you can wait till later. The thing that people are kind of upset about, two things. One, it does migrate over your watch list or watch history. It does migrate over some other things, but the thing it doesn't do, any purchase you've made doesn't migrate over. Anything, any other little things you've purchased throughout that time period doesn't migrate over. And if you are not a Crunchyroll subscriber at this point, and you're just gonna start using Crunchyroll now, that price is going to go up to It was for $59.99 for the Funimation subscription. That's going to go up to $99.99 in April. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see how people take to that. I'm going to ask this first. So I'm going to ask this to Deon. What do you think about the fact that they're merging now, and that a lot of people are kind of upset that their purchases are not going to go over, and the price hike itself?
Well, I feel like it's a little bit of a ripoff. Um, but I do understand the price hike. I mean, we got to keep up with the times. Apparently, everybody is hiking their prices from Netflix and Disney to HBO. They're all trying to go up. So I get that. The biggest I guess ripoff would be the fact that you can't pass over everything, because it's like we were supposed to have this junction a while ago where Funimation and Crunchyroll were supposed to be able to be one platform. So it's like we've been waiting for this. So the people who've been on Crunchyroll have been waiting for the Funimation stuff, and Funimation's been waiting for Crunchyroll, and now you're gonna tell me I can't use my same stuff? Like, it's kind of weird.
Um, Chris, what do you think about the situation? Do you kind of agree with Deon and what he's saying, or do you kind of have another take to it? I know we kind of talked about it prior a little bit too.
I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with Dion. Like, cause being a person who has lost that digital content, I am wholly upset, wholly mad, cause that's money spent that I no longer have claim to, which is a whole nother stake to the digital world that I am not liking as we get older. However, noticing noticing what Funimation and Crunchyroll has done to atone for that, certain shows are available on there to watch. So any of your digitals are now just part of the whole library now.
Yeah. Um, Good example of that. Me and Chris watched more of Classroom, Assassin's Classroom, which I'm loving.
Which is
That's
from
a side.
Funimation.
That's a side tangent. But after we watched a couple episodes before I went to bed, I had Azure Lane and High School DxD dropped on my watch list. It's been a while since I've used Funimation. I've been to use Funimation like a couple of years now. But it's funny, the High School DxD one was the mature version. So it was the fully mature, like everything is shown version of High School DxD. And it even says in the corner in red, this is a mature version. So ultimately, if they're gonna start doing that more, I'm wondering if that's going to be the kind of like softening the blow a bit, in the sense like you'll get the mature version of stuff at the same time. Yeah, you're not going to get everything that you purchase, but you'll still get some things that's on our site. So some of the mature stuff will come over. Some of the other animes that you had prior will come over. Um, Speaking to that though, I something Chris brought up, and I think it's kind of interesting. The fact that the digital library, the digital age is kind of making this tough, because video games is one of the senses of the word where I think that's always kind of been a bad thing. A lot of people look for physical media for games, in the sense of, good example, Switch games are usually good for physical media because you can use the good disc and play the game off the disc and have the save data on maybe SSD or micro SD or something like that. Um, Xbox and PlayStation, not so much. You can buy a physical disc, but you automatically have to download it to your system anyway. So it's not going to run off the disc itself.
And the save data you can't reuse or take anywhere
Correct.
with you.
Correct.
Ooh, yep.
Do you see a problem? And I'm going to ask this for Chris first. Do you see a problem where people are going to be kind of like, the price hike? I don't really like that. I do use it. I use it enough, but ultimately, what I'll just go out and buy my DVDs and have a collection of DVDs to keep the physical media around if I can find them.
So that everything you said makes complete sense. I'll be up until the point to where something like this happens. Like the example I gave you, Brandon, was like, let's say you have an account with Voodoo. I'm not. Voodoo is a company like most that has a collection of a digital library for people to purchase the digital content of for their shows. Now, if I were to buy something from Voodoo and all of a sudden Voodoo goes out of business, I'm going to be absolutely livid because I have spent money on getting stuff that I no longer have. So I think that's the one thing about the digital age that's what needs to be changed. How so? Honestly, I feel like that would probably make DVDs in a sense more expensive,
Okay.
but it might be worth it.
Okay. Chris, kind of same thought to you. Is that the same thing? You kind of see what Chris is saying? Ultimately, yeah, I bought this, I have this service, and now the service is going out of business. Now you're losing all that. But at the same time, the DVD market or the video game market, or whatever market you want to say, will get ultimately more expensive because of that going away.
Exactly.
See, I look at it differently though. Um, because we are in this streaming digital age, uh, we pay for convenience, being able to have it streamed directly to our laptops or our cell phones or video game consoles. The sad part is we don't get to keep it anymore, but you get a platform like Amazon Prime where you use digital content, but soon as you don't have you don't pay for the program anymore, you lose all of it. Like it's gone. You can't access it. There's no free version where you can just kind of see all the stuff you already had. And that's where the downfall to me lies. As
Hmm.
far as seeing the DVDs and stuff go up, I don't, simply because we seen this happen before when Blu-ray first came out. And you got the DVDs with the digital downloads. And it's like the way the world is working, they want that convenience. They want that era. The only way I can see this being more productive is if they do something like the way Disney does it, where you can still download it to your device. So you don't have to stream it, you don't have to do anything. You can download whatever you purchase, whatever you watch to your device. And now you can watch that no matter what. Um that it just sucks when you pay for something and you don't get to keep it. I might as well just rent it. Why am I paying for this movie that I'm not going to be able to watch if I don't pay for the program anymore? So it's really ridiculous.
Yep.
But the worst thing is subscriptions. But that's a whole nother tangent I can get into.
Yes,
Having
yes,
to pay monthly
yes,
for
yes, it is.
yeah,
Um,
that's horrible.
okay, you
Whole
brought up a
nother
couple good,
scam.
you brought up a couple good
Yeah.
points, and I think this also brings up something me and Chris talked about with his he has a movie collection on Xbox that he has all these movies, and if someday Microsoft said, "Hey, we are not going to be able to keep all these movies," and you lose all of that, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
I think the
I was
flip
gonna say
side to
we're
the
saying the same thing, but yeah, we're all saying the
yeah,
same thing.
I think the flip side to
Yeah.
this thing is, and somebody brought it up when I saw a couple videos about it. Anime Man mentioned it. A couple other people have mentioned it, and I don't really think this is going to be the case. Do you think this is going to force a lot of people to try to pirate a lot of the anime stuff? And
Not any more than they already are.
That part.
that's that's the part I was getting. That's the first thought I thought about when I watched the Anime Man the video about it. Because I'm like, people do it already. People only paying
Yeah.
for things
And it
sometimes
was
anyway.
actually worse than it
Yes.
is now.
Now.
It used to be way worse back in like the 2016 through 18 era.
Mhm.
Man, when Kiss Anime was out, like, I'm sorry for naming y'all, but there's a lot of them that were out, and it's like I didn't pay for anime back then. Like now, I feel like I'm almost forced to pay for it because these streaming sites that are not legit are kind of
Yeah.
Legit.
sketchy at best. But
Okay.
the ones we got now, like Funimation and even the bigger names are stepping up, like Hulu and Netflix are stepping up with their anime choices. It's like if I'm gonna have them anyway, I might as well watch my anime there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then with people sharing and doing all this other stuff, which unfortunately Netflix, you won't be able to stop that. Um,
that's a whole
but
nother tangent. But I get where you're
yeah,
going.
like with that, I feel like the pirating era is not dead, but it's thinned out a lot, and it's gonna stay thinned out.
Okay. So before we move on to the next topic, I need a one word answer from both of y'all for this. Do you think, or like a sentence statement for it? I'll say not say one word answer. We'll sentence statement for it. Do you think this is going to make a lot of people who had Funimation but not had Crunchyroll just drop both and not come back to traditional anime
Mm,
site like Crunchyroll or like High Dive or something like that? Or do you think ultimately what's going to be happening, the backlash from this might change Crunchyroll's thing, like mine, and they might lower that price a little bit closer to like $20 or something like that for a year? Um, for a year, not 20, because it's more now. It'll be more double what it is now. So I'll start off with Chris for that.
so I mean, just like Dion was saying earlier, it really comes down to convenience. I mean, do you want to be able to watch anime on your Xbox without or on your laptop without having, the chance of viruses and things like that? Then yeah, you're gonna pay for it. But for those of us that have like an old PC that we really don't care too much about and probably have some virus software that's actually supposed to be antivirus, one of those computers. It is what it is. But like, just make it work.
Okay, okay. Dion, what do you think about that last little question I'm asking before we go to our next topic?
As somebody who's lived on the dark side of the web for a long time, I feel like no, they won't drop it because if they drop it, it'll be because of the price, not because of the crossover. It'll be because they would have dropped it anyway because the price was too high. Like
Okay.
Netflix, people are dropping Netflix because they raised their price. Um, but it's like you have your diehards. Like I was Funimation. I know Chris is Crunchyroll. Um, but thanks to the powers that be, we were able to have both. And it's like, am I really losing anything if I drop Funimation and pick up Crunchyroll. But the biggest
Right.
question is, what am I gaining?
Correct.
And as long as that outweighs what you're losing, I feel like people will keep it around.
These gentlemen both bring up good points. And actually, the last thing you said, Deon, makes sense. If you're gaining more than you're losing, I think a lot of people will keep it. If people feel like the price is too high, that $100 a year, that's kind of not great. Now, the other thing I will mention, because Chris brought this up too, because he looked it up, kind of found it out. If you already had Crunchyroll at this point before this merger happened, you are grandfathered in, so that price hike's not going to change for you. So ultimately, it's going to be one of those things where if you're a new user, it's going to be kind of rough. Which I assume that's going to be the thing that people are going to backlash at. Ultimately, if that changes, that's a good thing, because you shouldn't be paying $50 for a service that you're probably only going to use pretty regularly. But if you're paying about $20 a year, that's fine. Like, 50,
especially when it was what you're used to.
Correct.
Right.
What you're used to, not what you're going into now.
Yeah.
But let me know what y'all think in the comments. That's an interesting topic. We'll see how the rest of this play out for the next couple of weeks. We still have till April before this fully merges through everything. Let's get to the topic. That's
go get Crunchyroll now, so you can get grandfather in. No,
I think that will. I think that will happen. I think a lot of people will get Crunchyroll before it fully merges, and that's gonna fix that problem.
Oh, it's already too late. I'm sorry, it's already.
Oh yeah, it is too late. You're right. It is.
They already
too
put
late.
the cap on it.
Yeah, so if you if I go and I try to change my account right now, it'll bump.
I don't think you can change it, but if I try to buy a new Crunchyroll account, it's not that high a price.
It isn't, but I'm wondering if you buy it now and then it gets to April, will that number just go up automatically without you?
Hey, you get your month free.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too. So let's get into this other topic. This other topic is kind of the level we talked about last week. Not as bad last week, but still on that level. Gojo's voice actor faces being canceled over a very terrible joke. And it's funny. I read this story from Otaku News Insider on their Instagram thing. It was over a game, basically. And the weird part was it was for it was between two players in this game. How am I gonna start this? Okay. I'm gonna start off with Chris for this. Chris, what do you think about the situation? Because ultimately, this seems kind of nuts to do about nothing. And Deon kind of said in our text when I put this in our text group. But also, I get why people are. I get it. We're in 2024. I get that you should be doing that. But it was for a game. I don't really understand the whole overly bad. Go ahead, Chris.
So people are emotional. And I mean a lot of people don't have very good control of their emotions. So obviously when they feel threatened for whatever reason, because of the day and time that we live in, the biggest outcry is the one that gets hurt. Now, as far as what happened and how it went about, yeah, that was just ignorant. Like honestly, like you sound like the regular run of the day person that I see over here in Oak Cliff. Put it that way.
And it's funny. It's funny. If you go to the Otaku News Insider, they do a great job with everything. I have to give them credit. They do a really good job finding these stories from all across in the anime world, in voice acting world, whatever you want to say. The last panel of this Instagram thing gives you the quote, and I just read it here. And it's just like, why would you say that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But also, it's kind of like you didn't think before you said it. And I know video game chats are annoying. I know video game chats are not the greatest thing ever. I mute anytime I play Forza, Call of Duty. I mute those chats like all the time, because I don't really want to hear that old chatter unless it's really something like where I'm working with other people and I have to hear the chat. Most of the time, don't care, because they've built in chat things where you can say, "Oh, need healing in Overwatch," press a button for it, things like that. Deon, what do you think about the situation? Because, like I said, I don't. This is kind of just like Chris said, idiotic and not in good
Man,
taste.
this is cancel culture. This is sensitivity. This is who the hell cares. It's not like he's on here yelling racial slurs. It's not like he's on here calling women out of their names. He is playing. And if correct me if I'm wrong, B Mac, but this was on a GTA server.
It was correct.
Out
It was
of
on a.
every game you want to take GTA stuff that serious.
Wow. See, they left that detail out.
No, they. I
The
didn't.
fact that it was on GTA makes everything null and void.
Here's the thing.
Everybody know that's probably one of the most trash talkingest games
But here's the
besides
thing:
Call of
the
Duty.
biggest thing about it is not only was it a GTA server, it is a role-playing GTA server. He was
Correct.
role-playing a character, and you could tell how out of his actual character this was from the things he was saying. This is not like stuff that would naturally come out of somebody's mouth. This is
And the reason I left it off because I was, and I didn't leave it off on purpose. I did it because here's the thing. I let Deon said it for me. It's GTA. And the thing was, when I saw GTA, I was like, okay, this is nothing about nothing because GTA is a very divisive game. When GTA 5 first came out, people were going nuts because it was just that divisive.
yeah.
And
People are still going nuts.
Still going nuts to this day.
It's 15 years later.
And I was like, and it was when they said role playing server, the other thing I thought was, so it's like D&D. My other thought was Dungeons and Dragons role playing server like things. So I'm like, okay. And I let it go because I was like, okay, fine. But ultimately, why would you didn't read the full quote? And I didn't want to. I started off with the thing I started off with to give you context.
Mm-hmm.
And now that Deon gave you the rest of the context, a lot of people not reading the rest of it looks stupid.
Yeah.
Because then now looks really, really not great because you're like, wait, I didn't read the rest of this. Oh, it's in GTA. Okay, throw that out. Yep. If you've ever played GTA or know of GTA, that's GTA for you.
Yeah, that's GTA in a nutshell. This entire situation, like you take it outside of the GTA, and it's like, that doesn't make sense. That's weird. He's kind of maybe he's a pervert. I don't know. You put it inside GTA, and it's like, oh, that's all he said.
Right.
That's it.
And here's
that could have gone a lot worse.
Man,
correct. And here's the other thing about thinking about role playing servers, or even I know people used to do. I forget what the game was, but they had a whole biker gang in one of the. I forget what game. Like the company who made the game did a whole biker gang for one of their games. I think it was actually GTA. I think it's GTA still this day. They have like one of the people in the studio do the biker gang thing.
Yeah, they still have the biker gangs. I'm in one.
Yeah. But ultimately, if everybody in the game was consenting to this, then what's the problem? Did it get randomly out there? Yeah. But you read the context gives you the answer.
And I feel like a lot of people go looking for this type of stuff.
That's the other
like
part.
this is you have to be in the mindset of this is bad before this becomes bad. Like you gotta already be looking for something bad, scrolling through like, no, that's fine. Maybe nope. I can work with this. It's like what? No, he was role playing a actual criminal character and said criminal stuff. Wow, let's make him a criminal now. No, he's a great actor. Let's do that.
Yeah. And Chris, I'm gonna ask you and Deon both this, and I'll ask you first. Do you think it's one of those things where, like Deon said, people dig for something to see if they can find a bad thing
Oh,
about somebody?
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
it's also a thing. If you're digging that deep, that tells me then either somebody in the server of that game leaked this out, or the second thing I could see, somebody playing that game ended up telling the media caught it, and everything kind of fell from there. What do
Yeah,
you?
somebody probably. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, you're right. Somebody probably leaked it out, which is ultimately the thing I worried. I'm kind of like, eh. But Chris, do you think that's people just kind of just trying to find a bad thing in something that they can't that somebody's doing good? Like they're a good person, but they're just trying to find the worst thing about them.
Bro, it is my life's experience that happens more than I will care to admit. Like, cause I
Mm,
mean, people who live in spite, that's what they live for. That's what the definition of spite is. Like, so I mean, I don't know what happened in the game of GTA, but normally when you get your butt whooped, that means your feelings got hurt in some form or fashion. So with
Um,
that being said, what's I mean, what else is there to be done about it? You know what I mean?
that's true. Yeah, and piggyback off that, like Chris said, what else has to be done, Dion? But also, here's the funny part: there's a quote from the voice actor saying this was in a game, and then that doesn't fix the problem of people digging. So basically, the story got even more worse when he came out about it and said what he actually said. But it's like he even says prior. He says in the quote, "It's from a game. It's from a GTA server." That should have stopped your speculation right there. But why didn't it? You think?
I don't think a lot of people understand what happens in a GTA server. A lot of people play GTA on their consoles and they expect a lot of people don't understand the underside of GTA. The black website when you're playing on a PC and you're in one of these art role playing servers, and when you go in as a person, you have to sign up for the Discord chat. You do like applications. You get in. They give you a character to play. Sometimes you don't get to pick the character you play. They assign a character for you. You could be a
Mm-hmm.
cop, a firefighter, a civilian, a criminal, a rapist, a person being raped. You can be a stripper, whatever. All of these things they get assigned to you based off what's happening in the server. This is the card he pulled. And it's like, okay, I'm in this game server. Now I have to be this person they assigned me to be or who I picked to be, whatever. It's not like regular GTA when you go playing, you're like, oh, I'm gonna decide to go punch an old lady today. No, this is what your character has to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he was chosen to be a cop, I'm sure he would have acted the heck out of being a cop at that
Yeah,
point in time.
yeah.
You know, because he clearly must play this often, but this is the first time you see him in the news,
And it's
you're
funny to
looking for
me. And it's funny to me you mentioned something, and I love this. One of my favorite streamers was a voice actor, but also they did a really cool thing with a couple of their friends, like friends she knew and where she lives, and it was in the states, and they did this like role playing like different character. They had to make their own characters for like this, like going to like this lake house party thing, and it was a mystery kind of thing. But the way they did it was so interesting because they played the characters like they wrote them out, but also they kind of put their own personality into them as well. So it ends up being very interesting to see how they would play these characters, and it ended up being very funny. But also, it is explicitly personally like they say at the beginning. These is like this is a role playing thing. This is what it is. And it's out. It's on video right now. You can find it. The video. It's really cool. But that's the thing. Like he explicitly says that, and I think that's the thing that people kind of forget. You rush to conclusions. When you rush to conclusions, you end up making your own conclusions of something that has a clear answer. And that's always more dangerous than the actual conclusion that's supposed to be right in front of you. And that's not going to ever change with things like this. I I hope we
and
don't hear I hope we don't hear more stories like this where people are just digging their information. But ultimately, let people do what they want to do. It's not your business.
yeah, you shouldn't have to apologize or be ashamed of being human and living your own human life just because people put you on a pedestal. Like, he's a voice actor. Cool. He's not your mother, he's not your father, he's not your husband. Let this man live his life. Like, man.
um,
because he really ain't worried about y'all at all.
Absolutely
I
not.
hope he's not. If he ever hear this at all, I hope he's doing. Don't
Absolutely.
apologize, bro. Do
Yeah.
you?
Absolutely
For real,
not.
bro.
Matter of fact, what server you in so I can join and be a racist cowboy? Like,
Man,
yeah. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. I defer to both of these guys because they kind of, I do think nothing of it. I kind of just let it over my head because it was just kind of like the writing's on the wall, like it's there right in front of you. But ultimately, like I say, like we've all said, it's like this information was sitting right there, and yet you kind of you put this kind of pedestal, like Deon said, that's done a character like Gojo. I get it. People get very caught up in the voice actors of some certain characters. I do get that, but ultimately, he's still a human. That's the big thing. And he's still a person that can do his own thing, and that should never trump what they do for a living. Absolutely not. But let's get into this. Let's get into the anime charts for this week. Before you do that, get up episode 6 of Solo Leveling. We'll get into that in a couple minutes. These anime charts, gentlemen, stayed where I thought they were going to stay. So we have The Dangers in My Heart Season 2 at 1. Friend Beyond Journey's End at 2. Rhonda Crisman moved up 7 spots to 3. Magic and Muscles moved up 2 spots to 4. The Marrying My Worst Enemy moved up 2 spots to 5. The Apothecary Diaries dropped 2 spots to 6. Soul Leveling dropped 5 spots to 7. Undead Unlucky stayed at 8. Chain Soldier stayed at 9. And Classroom of the Elite Season 3 went to 10. I'll start off with Deon for this. Deon, what is your takeaway from these charts?
well, like you said, most of these they're kind of exactly what we thought they were gonna be. I mean, like verbatim. The Dangers in My Heart being exactly where it's at. Nothing getting closer to it except for a female lead, which is Fair and Beyond Journey's End. The only surprise for me is that Ragnar Crimson jumped so far. And that's only because I have not seen that episode, so I don't know why it jumped that far. So maybe it's really, really good, but everything else is pretty much exactly where we're going. All the male leads are at the back. Magic and Muscles, we got a really good fight out of the last one, so of course it did well. It seems to jump well when we have some good action. Other than that, I mean, even Solo Leveling, I told you that was the precursor episode, so I didn't expect it to do as good as the episode we should be watching tonight does, or the episode before that one did, because it's more of a lead-in episode. So
we went even as far as letting Brandon skip the episode because we knew what it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I played in blind of that, and even me playing blind and using the manhwa for that ended up giving me the like, oh, this is where we are. But they don't do the context they do here is missing a few things, but they ended up making it make sense. Chris, what do you think about the charts as we see them right now?
We called it. We as a podcast, we called it. Now, I mean, we almost honestly, bro, I feel like we could do the charts better because we're almost as accurate as they are, if not better.
that's kind of bad to say, but all right.
But with that being said, everything was almost as we predicted. Now I think the one that none of us saw was Ranga Crimson. That's kind of one of the ones I'm waiting to binge watch. So yeah, man. So it's not surprising at all, and we called it. We knew that the charts were going to start solidifying right around this week. So
I do think it's funny. Deon brought up the point right off the bat. You see all the top 3 have female leads. All your male leads 4, 5, 7, and 10. The 2 outliers, Undead Unlucky and Chain Soldier. Chain Soldier, acquired taste. That is one. If you're not fully into the story, you're not gonna like it. If you're not fully into what it's doing, you're not gonna like it. So that's one's acquired taste. I'm so I'm not shocked by Solo Leveling, but the one I am shocked by, and I think it's because I haven't continued it yet since I missed the last couple episodes. Classroom of the Elite. It's odd that Classroom Elite's at 10. That's a weird place to put it, but I also know Classroom, like I said before, I've said prior, Classroom Elite is one of those ones you have to understand what's going on. There's a lot of just dialogue stuff. Outside of listening, you have to see what's going around in each scene. So I think a lot of people are getting burned out because it's not leading to anything yet. I think it's leading up to something, but the leading up to something hasn't made it make sense. You have to get to that point. Magic and Muscles, that was a banger. I'm not surprised at 4. It would have been at 3 if Rondo Crimson didn't jump as high as it did. And the only other one that I would think you put on here, because I finally caught up to Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, and I really gotta keep saying this. I'm gonna keep saying it. I think Metallic Rogue has to be up here somewhere because it does. It is such a good story, and I think that's one that should be on this list, but it's not. Magic, Beast and Witch. I can go down a list of things.
Oh my goodness, yes.
We've talked about this before, but it's funny to me. I think the thing that we're learning from these charts is that when you do a female lead that is interesting, different, and has a good story, people are going to connect to it. When you do a male lead, in this case, Classroom Lead's male lead is interesting, but he's kind of like a stone, basically. He has no personality. He has personality, but the personality is kind of not there. Soul Levin's lead has personality, but he's kind of not. He's getting to that point where he's not going to have personality in a second. And then Magic and Muscles is the outlier because Mash has the super amount of personality, but around Mash is the other thing. Mash has all these other characters around him that make that personality seem kind of awkward, but it works because everybody else is playing it straight. So
it's the comic relief of the chart.
Correct. That's the other reason. The comic relief of the chart, so that's gonna be something that's gonna be played on ultimately throughout.
Like we had Zom 100 or what is it? Zom Bucket List of Dash of the Dead last season. Now we have Mash.
So you have that comic relief in there. You have everything else in here is some type of drama or shonen. And funnily, we only have one shonen, one technical shonen, if you really want to say it. Soul 11 is the only technical shonen. I would put Chain Soldier as a technical shonen if you thought about it as in a way of like it's a fighting anime, but there's more to it than that. But that's the other one I can give credit to. But ultimately, the other thing I'll put up here, Shangri-La should be up here, but it's not. So that's more consistency. But we'll see what this chart does within week 6. I'll call it again before we get to the episode. Dangers in My Heart is not leaving number 1 the rest of this season. There is nothing that can pull it off that can break that top spot. Absolutely nothing. The only thing I can think that can do it, and it's something I'll say again, the only thing I can think that can do it is soul leveling with this episode. And that's not even going to be a guarantee.
See, I think it'll be Beyond Journey's End, if anything.
That's the other one I can see. Those are my two.
Did you see that clip I sent you, Deon?
As many as 2. On Instagram?
Yes.
I don't know. I might see everything.
There was a clip I sent of because I hadn't been watching Fury and Journey's End.
Oh yeah,
there was a scene where she's like quote unquote powering up. Then all of a sudden she just powers down really quick. Yeah. And then the next thing you see is the person she was hitting, their head just rolls on the ground. I was like, oh.
But see, and that's the thing with Beyond Journey's End. You'll see something super cool like that for 10 seconds of the episode. And then you have 23 minutes and 23 minutes and 50 seconds of them walking through like bushes or something, or talking flowers or something. Like, it's like we have this super strong character, but the entire episode is based off the end of her adventuring career. And it's like, all right, cool, bro.
I will say this. We are kind of we're not harsh. We're not super harsh. I won't put it that way. But we kind of understand where this is going to end up. And ultimately, I'm fine with that. And it's funny. People think it's funny when I say this. I enjoy female characters more in games, shows, anything else than more than male characters. For the most part, because they're more interesting to write about. They're more interesting to play with. They're more interesting to play in games. They're more interesting to see the story about them. Male characters usually have a hard time giving male characters dynamics because they have to be either really macho or they have to be really bland, or in the case of MASH, they're really funny, and the funny is there the comedic relief to everything else. We'll see what this chart does. I'll be interested. I'm guaranteeing that I will guarantee one thing. If I don't think so, like I said, Soul Level is probably the only one that can hit one, but I'll guarantee this. I think Solo Evil next week will be in the top 3.
Yep.
Just because what this episode does.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's probably something you can stamp pretty easily.
Especially without a MASH.
Yeah.
Like
And
a
they're done by
real
the same
MASH
studio,
episode.
surprisingly. They're done by A1 Pictures. So with that, A1 Pictures is cooking because they have a good episode of this, and MASH was good last week. MASH about next week could be amazing.
I will say though, BMAC,
Mhm.
I don't know if this list is based off of how good an episode is, as much as how many people are basically fanboying the episodes. Because
Yep.
if that was the case, Shangri-La, the last 2 or 3 episodes of that
Ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
was tremendous.
When you
Yes.
before we get into solo leveling, when you say fanboying, what do you mean?
Like, oh, I like MASH, or I like Beyond Journey's End. I like the characters. I like this. So even if it's a bad episode, I'm still gonna vote for it because this is my anime. This is the anime that I want to watch. This is my stuff. Versus, oh, it wasn't that good last week, so I'll vote for the other one that really was, even though it's not really my cup of tea.
Okay.
Whereas it's very possible for somebody like and I want to speak for the group, but people like us who can look at the list objectively and be like, yeah, Solo 11 didn't do good last week, so I think Crimson should be up there. Versus somebody being like, yeah, it didn't do good last week, but I still don't like Ragnar Crimson. So
yeah, correct. And I think that's what I'm getting at seeing this chart now. It is more of a fandom thing, which fandoms are fine. Fandoms can go overboard. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But
Most definitely.
But when a fandom goes overboard, you can tell when it's gone overboard. In this case, if it's partly fandom, I'm not too worried in the sense like people enjoy what they enjoy. If you're enjoying Classroom Elite, Fury's End, all that kind of stuff as it's going on, cool. I see why you kept voting for it. Like you say, Deon, and like Chris will probably agree with, we look at it objectively, and objectively, me and him we're all kind of like, we thought last week's Soul Leveling wasn't great, even though I didn't see the episode. But funny, y'all had told me that. But also, you look at Magic and Muscles that we liked, that we all didn't like, but the chart said otherwise because everybody enjoyed it. We looked kind of weird because it was like, wait, why didn't we didn't like this episode, but everybody else did? Why? So it's a thing of like, do you like the character? Do you like the story? Or is it just like, these characters are cool, I can keep watching this all day long? Fine.
Right.
So now let's get
Shangri-La, man.
yeah, that's the thing. Like Shingirl has really good characters and a good story. That should be higher.
Man.
I think Shangri-La, Beast and Witch, and The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic should never be out of the top 10.
Correct.
And, man, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're fine. You're totally good. Now let's get into episode 6 of Solo Leveling. The real hunt begins. This is going to be something I'm going to say. I'm going to say this as we get more in the series. I'm going to say this more and more. If you are squeamish, look away because this is going to get worse. This episode gradually builds up to where we end up at the end of this episode. Oh, and they don't mince words, by the way. They don't mince what they show. So if you're very squeamish, look away at those points. My reaction will tell you where to look away, most likely. And Deon's most likely as well. But yeah.
No.
and I know your
If you
voice.
see me get excited, look away.
Yeah, yeah. You see, that's a good point. You see Deon get excited, look away. You see me kind of cringe, you know why. But this kind of builds into what Jinwoo's gonna end up. Jinnu is gonna end up being, and go on the rest of the series. And this is where a lot of the plot stuff I'm going to talk about as we get through the play by play going to come into play. In a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Gentlemen, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. The real hunt begins. I do love the fact you left him to think they're going to be dead, and then the bugs doesn't go back to sleep. That's kind of funny to me. Yeah, no.
I wonder how many times that has actually happened, though.
Yeah, because they meant the fact they've done this before, or they haven't done this before, but they've done some similar things. Kind of, you can tell the vibe.
Like a loon corpse.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they say this part because you have taken him alone. And he's like, no way.
Yeah, absolutely not. You couldn't take anything alone.
Thanks for the vote.
I love how he leans over and gives that little smirk. He's like, "I'm ready to do this."
Like you see the switch.
Yeah.
No longer that shaking, cowardly E rank he once was.
Mm-hmm.
Those eyes, bro. That look.
Yeah, he ready to fight. He not gonna push on. I still love this song. This song is so awesome.
I'm still looking for that obscure message in the intro.
Hey
You're not
Dion, I
gonna.
don't know if you noticed it, but they changed it. They changed the
They did
beginning of
change
it.
it. You could tell it's been pulled out because I think Chris mentioned it. I didn't even look when he mentioned it. Where when he mentioned when we saw the part he talked about, I saw the part he talked about. Like, oh, I didn't
Like
notice it meant.
it's like the
He changed.
first 5 to 10 seconds are different.
Wow. I don't think I've
Mhm.
ever paid attention that much
So ultimately, either
to
the
the
backlash
visual.
worked, or the studio was like, you know what, we'll just pull it. We'll just fix it ourselves.
So they just took that part out.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I forget. Chris has 2 bugbears with this episode, and they're coming up pretty quickly. I forget about this.
Hey, what?
You had 2 bugbears about this episode, and they were nothing. It was nothing like story wise. It was something they. It was something they did, and you didn't think they should have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what was it? Are
Well,
we
I
about to
had to
see it?
say before the end.
It
You had to
was.
say before the end now.
I think he didn't mind this one. This one he didn't mind. It's the next one we see they do because it doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah.
Exoskeleton is hard. Yeah, it's spider. Exoskeleton is supposed to be hard.
The look of shock on his face is priceless. It's like mixed with fear and astonishment at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you worried about him killing you?
Yeah, I'm saying that's spider killing first if that happens.
You know, this could have easily been renamed Ready Player One, I probably would have got the same effect.
Ready Player One. That would actually been kind of funny. If we could've- But the Ready Player One has a distinct thing to it where it's like, oh, we have all these other properties in Ready Player One.
Yeah. And you're still a person playing a video game.
Yeah.
I can't wait for those days.
Hey, Deon,
Yeah.
when I get in my twilight years, bro, that's all we gonna be on.
Man. I cannot wait for, and I know I'm one to hate technology taking over, but when they release full dive VR, I'm put the chip in my head, bro. Let's go.
See, I'm worried about that day. Whenever that day comes, I don't want to. I don't want to see that day come.
Man, if I die, it's gonna be playing Mortal Kombat in VR.
Mm. He remembered he had that full recovery. He just stabs right between the eyes. It's multiple eyes, basically.
You can't miss.
Nope. Every time in paralysis. By the way, I love the way the music is in that.
Ding ding ding. Start calling him boss now and carry all the stuff.
It was the fear, man, and astonishment.
But would she be that scared to the point where you're gonna just
Brandon,
kind of call him boss?
yes.
Okay, all
Brandon,
right.
if Dion straight up took out a whole legion of Taliban shooters, are you gonna be afraid of the dude, or you gonna walk up to him?
Okay, you're right. You're right. This I know this cut you didn't like, Chris, because they cut this right after that fight and it didn't really make much sense.
Yeah,
It
I think
didn't
the
make that much
placement
sense for
of
him to have
this
all
was
that power.
weird.
That's true. That's
Oh,
also
for
true.
him to have all the power?
The old man can just like
Like,
just punch, and you see the
and
ground. I
not
don't see the
only
ground.
him coming up in a fight, all that was for nothing. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but he is the chairman of the Hunters Guild. Like
Which he should be strong. I get that. They're
he's
proving that fact.
yeah.
They're proving that fact. He's supposed to be strong.
I feel like the placement was weird just for this one line to go over the scene.
Yeah, the line,
Yes.
that line at the end makes
The
that
human nature
scene.
catches up to you line, and then this happens.
Kill Jinu, basically.
After he just watched all that, would you?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Boy, are you wrong?
He stands by him.
You would be stupid not to.
You'd be super. Yeah, but at this point, it'd be not great not to. You know what he
But
can
did you
do.
see Jin who steal his face? Like, dang, I'm gonna have to kill this dude too.
Yeah,
Like he steeled himself.
Yep.
Like, all right, bro, this what you want.
Yep.
Virgin Quest.
So I like how he calls them prey. I mean, or how the system called them prey.
Pray. This is the other scene Chris didn't like because they cut away from this and you go to her, you go to them three, which makes no sense. But I get why they did it. And I'll explain after we talk. We'll talk about. We'll talk about the review. It's only for one true line that she says, but that's it. But
Yeah.
there's a reason behind it. Too. There's a visual reason behind it. And I will say this right now, plot point. Remember the fact she mentions the Hunters Association and the White Tiger Guild. That comes up later. Not in this episode, but it comes up in the next
like
couple
two
episodes.
more episodes.
Yeah, it comes up in 2 more episodes because so that is why it's partially there. She mentions those 2 things.
Yeah, I just feel like these placements were
A little off. I get why. I get it. They're a little off. They don't make sense to what just happened, but they do it for context
they have
reasons.
a reason. Yeah.
And we see the fact he can read it. He's fading in and out of consciousness.
And then he snaps.
Well, as they say, he lost his humanity. Or your heart will stop. He got up like a zombie, didn't he? You see that? He just like faded, just kind of like lifted up off his body. Ugh. That blast would have killed him anyway. God. By the way, they're very oblivious to the fact he looks different. Like, aren't y'all figuring out?
Yeah, that look on his determination on his face.
Yep.
Like, I wouldn't be joking at this point.
No. And once I saw that aura around him, I would have really thought something was up.
Yeah.
Man, this part is so. Oh man. Good.
I will say this much: this part's beautifully animated and beautifully well done. And the one thing I'll give him credit for, the dialogue here and the fact you did the music at this back half is going to be really interesting. I love that.
Oh, Emperor's Cleavage, look away. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Let's say there's the first one, and we're just gonna get more from this point on. So,
is there plenty more where that
by
comes
the way,
And I mean, he
Jin,
decapitated.
Jin Ho's face looks like what? The guy that was leading the guild is kind of like, huh? But he's overconfident. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Just
I
don't give a
like how
crap.
they all make excuses right before.
Yeah.
Like,
he called it though. Jin knew called it. He knew it was going to happen. He knew they got betrayed, and that goes back to Deon saying he has good instincts, alongside the system power he's getting. So
yeah.
this song is beautiful going toward with this, which is kind of sad because the song is supposed to be kind of sad.
Because it's a slaughter.
Yeah. But I think it goes deeper than that, you guys.
It does go a lot deeper.
I think we're losing his humanity, and that's sad.
Because he never thought he actually had to kill somebody.
Nope.
Yeah. But I need this song. This is definitely a soundtrack song.
I'm gonna look it up. I need to look it up because I heard somebody else talk about the song. The song is really good. They said the person who makes these kind of songs do it really well.
Yeah, I need to hear it with the subwoofer.
Oh, absolutely.
My whole floor is shaking.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
when I watched it, I had my surround going. I was like, "Yeah, this is fire."
Here's the thing: why are you going to fight him? Just saw 5 of your men die.
Because he'd already messed up. You'd already messed up, buddy.
But ultimately, I would have been like, "Okay, let me walk. I'm leaving. Don't hurt."
Nope.
No. Go back.
No.
I feel like, and he says something that makes me feel this way, but overconfidence in who he is led him to make that decision.
I have to say, I give him credit on that part. Did you hear that they just did piano there? And then
Yes.
the song just kicked in, till he puts his hand on his face and pushes him to the ground. Then it kicks in. It's like
Perfect
they knew
timing.
what to do there. Now you're begging for mercy.
What you mean, bro? What you mean?
You're
It's
paying
already
double?
mine.
Oh. I love he says you tried to kill me 3 times and now you want mercy.
The timing of that though. He's like, I'll pay you 2 times, 3 times. You tried to kill me. Woo-hoo.
You tried to kill me. Yep, that line is beautiful. There we go.
Woo. Let it be known that this is probably the only anime that can get away with showing a full decapitation and still being rated
Correct.
PG-17 or
14.
PG-14. Yes.
PG-14. It's PG-14.
That's the Korean ratings.
That's correct. But that's
For real.
probably not the. It's not the American, because if the American, it would be higher. It would be 70.
Yeah.
It would definitely be mature.
Yeah. This is the part I don't. I kind of think it's weird because I do the jump cut here, and this is where I know in the manga it's a little bit different. So we'll talk about it at the end. But it gets kind of weird because that jump cut just kind of doesn't mean much. Wait. You think he protected him? That's logical.
Just because he higher rank and he got that armor.
She's logically right, but no, that's not logically. That's not actually what happened.
But if he still want to stay low key,
Yes. And there's the Started raining. Oh yeah, we get this scene too. I forgot we get this scene. That teases something for later too, which is kind of funny. We don't get that. That's coming down the road.
Do you know who my brother is?
Yeah,
I guess we will.
Yeah, that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably one of the few times where I'll have to say I'm looking forward to the next episode too much. I'm looking forward to the next episode way too much, and only because I see where this is heading, and I wonder how they're gonna do it. But let's get into this. We're gonna do this in 3 parts: beginning, middle, and then the end. The beginning of this kind of starts off with we see that the rest of the groups going out of the dungeon. They're talking about, hey, what's gonna happen to those boys? Oh, those boys, the head guy's like, those boys will die. We'll come back. We'll get all the mana crystals, and then once the boss kills them, they'll go back to sleep. So we're not gonna worry about. Then he's like, and the guy's like, "Do you want to take him on? No. Okay, good, fine. You can't take him on by yourself. We'll have a better time on our own doing that, and all together than doing that by ourselves." But then we get into the intro. After the intro, we get the scene with the head of one of the guilds and his secretary. I'm assuming they're coming out of the building. He talks about the fact like, hey, there was a bunch of meetings, government, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, he said, "Oh, your rest of your day is clear. Can I ask for a favor? Can I get some teaching from you? And is that is that okay?" And the guy's like, "You know what? Yeah, you're asking for teaching. I'll give you some guidance." So then we cut back to Jinnu and Jinho. They're both standing there. Spider's in their way. Spider's like gonna attack him. Jinnu was already ready to fight. He was ready to go into it. He was like, "I'm not scared anymore. I'm doing this." So we get in that fight. He starts going after the monster, and then technically we see the boss get beat. Once we see the boss get beat, before we fully see the second half of this, what happens after, we cut again. We cut again back to the secretary and the head of the guild, they're having a little sparring match. The head of the guild just like knocks him back with a full on like punch, and literally just leaves a trail of like skid marks. And he says, "Thank you for it," all that kind of stuff. The only reason this thing is here is to give you the line at the end where he says, "We, you'll see how ugly humanity is," teasing you the fact of what's about to happen. I'm gonna stop right there. I'll start off with Chris. Chris, what do you think about this first section?
So I, I love the fact that how they bring us back into it. Like these dudes are already talking about how they're gonna about how things are finna go. They're already kind of planning it. And then we kind of skip to the older gentleman. The only reason I pointed this out was because there's an old saying that and I know I'm gonna get it mixed up, but beware of the old man who has the job where they die young.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So that's why I said what I said about this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Deon, what do you think about this first little bit? From the time we got to see the spider boss, then the guys walking out of the spider thing, to the time we see you meet the spider boss and we see the head guy of the guild and the guy fighting and kind of have that little sparring match.
This I know a lot of people are saying that they don't like the way that it cut, but I feel like if you're gonna cut, for one, I'll say this: I feel like they're doing a lot of cuts to give us a lot of filler episodes because they have to introduce a bunch of characters at one time, and this is one of the main characters that we need to know about in this story. Um, and I feel like that was a perfect time to do it after the intro, so that way it's like a dead scene in a way. So I feel like that was the perfect. If you did it anywhere else, I'd have been upset. But they did it right there. It was great. Um. So yeah, and then like you said, that one liner that they played that entire scene for. I mean, there was more for details, but you won't know until like we know because we peeked ahead. But
Yeah.
you know, you won't know until further on. But that one liner, the humans way or whatever,
Yeah.
that was beautiful just for that one line. Like
Correct. Correct.
I'll
Correct.
take all that just for that one line.
I will say this, and I know Chris thought these three cuts were kind of weird. The only reason they're doing these three cuts is for two reasons, and the second cut makes it more clear. This cut doesn't make it clear. Is that they're showing you the other power levels in this world. So you got the guy who's on top of the guild, who's the head of the guild, and his assistant, but also the girl we see again, the S rank hunter down early down this episode. They're showing her again because her power, because you don't see that in the manhwa or the webcomic at all in the big first couple books. It's not a thing yet. So ultimately, they're trying to get the anime fans to understand, oh, these characters are tough as nails. And that's why we're showing you these characters. Um, but I agree. I kind of agree with Chris. I do agree with Dion in both senses. Yeah, it's weird they're doing the cuts, but I do agree with Dion more. It's a dead spot. It's basically saying, here's where the episode officially starts. We're just going to give you a tease of something that has no bearing on anything right now, but it's teasing for something later. And like you said, with the second one, he's giving you an answer to a question that it helps you understand what's about to happen. So then we see so kind of after this, and I didn't mention the beginning part too. They do Jin Ho is kind of like worried. He just saw a man beat a spider by himself, and then he's like, "I'll do anything for you, boss. I'm gonna here. I'll get the mana. I'll get everything." He's kind of just scared at this point. So then after the little training thing, we get back to the men. The men come back in. They go, "You killed the spider boss. How?" And they jump to conclusions right away. They jump, "Oh wait, so Jinho, you have the armor. You have the sword and shield. You could have killed him. But also, we can kill you, take the sword and shield, and make a lot of money." He doesn't say that, but we've heard he kind of thinks it in his brain a little bit. But then on top of that, he tells Jin Ho, she tells Jin Ho, by the way, we know who your dad is. Your dad's the head of the construction company who probably is worth a lot of money. So if you want to get out of here alive, kill Jinnu. And he kind of walks past Jinnu. Jinnu gives him this look of like, you seriously about to? No, right? Jin-Ho turns around and is in fighting stance. Basically, the guy goes, you really shouldn't have done that, kid. You ain't going to win this. So bring it on. And then ultimately what's about to happen, all the swords come out. Everybody's about to start, we're about to start getting down in a fight. And then Jin-Ho gets down in his fighting stance as well. And then he tell the head of the guild guy, the head of this little raid guy says to the mage guy, shoot Jinnu. Shoot Jinnu with a magic thing. He does, knocks him to a bunch of rocks. And then the next scene we get is the girl, all these 3 girls who are all like in the different party raids come together, have like tea and kind of just talk about things, talking about A rank stuff, how strong she is as an S rank hunter, all this kind of stuff. But the big line you get out of this is something that's kind of interesting. And they do it subtly. The big thing out of this is the fact that they mention 2 things: the Hunters Guild and the White Tigers Guild. Those things are coming up later down in a couple episodes. And in the manhwa, they're like pretty close. They're coming up. So like those things are going to come up in the episodes coming up. I'll end it right there. I'll start off with Deon. Deon, what do you think about the section we get when the guys come back in to the raid team, the spider getting killed, and then up to after the girls have the tea right before you see Jinnu laying in the rocks?
I hated it. I absolutely hated it because it was done so well. Like, man, like, bravo to A1 for this. You get us all ramped up and ready to see this throwdown. Like you and even the system is like, I'm ready for you to throw down. The system is like, let's go. And then you cut, you give us this cut, and it's like, bro, what are you doing? But the cut is so detailed, you make me have to pay attention to it. So it's like, yeah, I'm ramped up for this fight, but now I gotta focus on the story too. Like, you're making me basically invest more into the story rather than just get addicted to the fights. And I love that. That means it's not going to be a bunch of filler episodes where you're trying to introduce these S rank, A rank characters and stuff. That means that we're going to get more episodes later down the line with raw action, with minimum story, with great detail to what's actually happening now, because we're getting all of this early.
And Chris, before I ask you the same thing, there's one thing you have to. They know that they did very well. What did Jinnu do early in this episode? He won. He beat that boss by himself. What they show you in the little tea conversation they show you the S rank hunter beat a boss and a raid by herself. What does that tell you?
While the A ranks were struggling.
What does that tell you about Jinnu's power? What does that tell you about her power? They told a very good story in showing you that power discrepancy between 2 different people, but they're the same kind of power. Chris, what do you think about
different levels of power, but
correct
at their own peaks?
Chris, what do you think about this middle part? Do you kind of agree with Deon that it's a story-based thing and he didn't mind the cuts, but at the same time, it made you think?
Well, as a person that has neither seen the webtoon nor have I read the manhwa, I took it as something. Yes, it is something that I need to pay attention to, but I don't know what information I'm supposed to grab from it. So I just remember the scene as a whole.
Correct.
Now, because I don't have as much background as y'all do, I'm going on the actual spider fight.
Yeah.
The spider fight, I give a 7.
Okay.
Because it was good. It was well drawn out, but I've seen better. Yeah, I'm just.
I will
real.
say this, Chris. In the webtoon, that fight is longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more detailed.
I'm gonna get to that because we're gonna get to the back half of this, and there's whole section cut out that doesn't really.
I'm just saying, like, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen or haven't read, but this is just from my point of view.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Like that fight,
Okay.
I understand
Yeah,
why you give it a 7.
yeah. And here's the thing,
Okay.
I love the fact too. You don't have the context of the manga quest or the webtoon, so to you, it just feels like they are leaving out some things. But in this case, that's good for just an anime only watcher because they can see that, oh wait, this feels incomplete, but get that it's not incomplete. There's bones there. There's a skeleton there, basically.
Hmm.
Um yeah, but I would tend to agree with you. The boss fight technically would be about a 7 or 8 for me.
But
The
there's a
middle
reason
stuff,
for that too.
there's a reason for that too. The middle stuff too, if you didn't have the context from like me or Chris, I could see that being like a 4 or 5 to you as well, ultimately. Um, just because there's no real
Yep.
context for that.
Now, but I will say this, and this is because it's more like a burning question,
Okay.
and this is just in retrospective to the anime, like after he got knocked down by the thug because they told him to hit him with a magical blast and he was supposedly a D or C rank magician or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great.
Hmm.
Now, after he took that hit and he got back up, yo, that was the point in time for y'all to say, wait, nah, something wrong here.
But did you catch what he said, Chris? It's all on the leader. He said, "Man, you got to stop holding back so much."
Yeah, he does say don't hold back. He does say don't hold back.
So they're thinking the rest of the. I know that man was shaking in his boots because he
Correct.
knew he hit him with all his power. But the whole crew is like, "Bro, why you ain't hit him harder than that? I know he E rank, but you
Yeah.
could have gave him a little bit tougher."
So let's get into this back half. And this back half's kind of interesting. So we see Jinwoo kind of lay there and think through his thoughts. He can't really he's kind of fogged up. He kind of doesn't know what to do. We get the message saying, you've earned a quest. Destroy these 6 people. If you don't destroy them, your heart will stop. And they literally take their time. We don't see the heart we stop sentence until about a couple minutes in, a couple more seconds in, like a minute or so into this back half. When he finally sees that, he's like, "What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I can't. I mean, I really couldn't. How?" And he finally just like, you know what? I have to survive. And ultimately, the one thing they do here, which I love, he kind of gets up in a trance. He gets up in a trance. He doesn't say, he really doesn't say anything right away. But when he gets up, you're kind of like, and slowly just starting walking towards him, you're like, okay, he's not right. And then they all think, okay, he's kind of, what, how is he, like you say, Deon, how is he standing up? Why is he standing up? What's going on? And this more and more they walk towards him, then he's like, y'all y'all are not great people. But you know what? I've dealt with so much in my life to the point where I'm not gonna hold back anymore. And finally, you see him slowly continue walking, continue walking, continue walking. And as he gets closer to one of the dudes of the group, you see a black aura comes out of his body, like dark black aura, just coming out from his body, and you're like, okay, what's going on? Then I don't know why this guy did this. One of the guys goes, line up. What do you think we're gonna do? What's wrong with you? What's going on? And literally in one fell swoop, Juno goes, you know what? Take the little dagger, put the neck, get his head off. Everybody's shocked. But the funny part was, Jinho is shocked the most. He's like, I just saw it. And then the leader of the raid party is kind of like, huh? Okay, that's overconfidence. He's too overconfident. There's no way he can beat all of us. And then from there, you see the first one go down. Everybody goes after him. One by one, they ultimately go down. And it's funny. They start playing this song, and this song is very beautiful. Beautiful song. But ultimately, the reason they're playing this song one of the lines is everything is coming to you. And it's kind of faint, but you kind of hear the words are not supposed to be like super audible, but they're audible enough where you can understand them. And it's basically saying everything that you've done to Jinu is coming back at you tenfold. And the thing was, Jinu's finally lost his humanity. His humanity has been broken. Like the old man said at the beginning, there's ugliness in humanity. This is what it's kind of built. This group has built ugliness, having people come to their parties, ended up destroying those people, taking the stuff, and leaving. So then, ultimately, the head guy's staring at Jinu, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to end this now. I'm going to call reinforcement, and he just calls all this power. This song was not even playing lowly for the most of this part. Till the song stops. Song stops, you see Jinu put his hand right up close to his face. Only thing you hear is piano keys. Then, as he's taking his hand, puts it on his face, throws him to the ground. The song picks back up, and then you see Jinu's eyes look down at him like, yeah, you ain't winning. You are just so not great. And the guy kind of looks up and goes, what? How am I? And then he finally starts begging for his life. He goes, give me mercy. Give me, I'll do anything. I'll pay you double. I'll pay you triple. And I like what Chris said, or Deon said, we watched the episode. When he says, I'll pay you triple, you see Jinu say, I'm the back. You tried to kill me 3 times. No, I am not giving you mercy. I don't care anymore. And he slices the head of the guy off, leaves him laying. Jin Ho don't know what to think. He just saw everybody get murdered, and the fact that he just saw this guy go crazy. Then ultimately we see that he levels up, gets all these things reward and stuff. We cut to outside the dungeon, and the lady's talking to him. Lady's asking, so what happened? How these men die? And then she kind of pulled her glass up for a second and goes, you know what? I get it. So Jinho did it to protect you, but then he did it with all the armor and stuff. And she lets them go. But the last thing we see of this part is Jinnu is looking up at the sky. He feels the rain. He's like, oh, I'm glad I gave my sister that umbrella. Jinho's asking what's wrong, and he says nothing. So that ties that back in from a previous episode. But then we see a guy staring at a window, looking out, and he kind of is seething. That's the tease for something later down the road, a little bit later down the road. That's gonna be a while before we get to that, but the tease for something. And that's how the episode ends. Chris, what did you think about this back half of this episode?
Yo, so check me out. And I said it and I said it earlier. I don't know what other show within the last 5 to 10 years has shown a full decapitation, not once, but twice, and still have the nerve to call themselves rated 14.
Yeah, that's wild. That's a wild rating for this anime.
But here's the thing, and I counterpointed you. What I counterpoint you with, remember? Demon Slayer.
Yeah, I mean, but that doesn't need to be TB14 either.
It does not, but that's the thing. Demon Slayer did a bunch, but it was in a fight. It was in a fight purpose. So it was like a fight purpose of like he's fighting from trying to stay awake. But here, I think that's the same kind of thing. Here, you can say, "Oh, he's fighting to save his life," so it's kind of justified. But yes,
okay.
But this decapitation versus the Demon Slayer decapitation, and I'm a Demon Slayer fan. Demon Slayer's decapitations have more of a cartoon element to them than this one did.
Yeah,
This
Exactly.
decapitation was Goblin
Literal.
Slayer.
yeah, that was Goblin Slayer levels. That's true. I give you that.
Like, and Brandon, you remember how I explained it to you when we watched it? It's one thing if it's man versus a thing or a creature, but when you put man versus man and you see man commit a crime like that, that is a whole nother level.
Yes, it is.
and then with the dramatic effect too. Oh nah, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Heads
But
rolled
the rest of
on the
so
floor.
oh my god, man. This whole episode and then like the fights with all of them, bro. Like they had no idea that he had a paralyzed sword. I mean, or whatever that thing is. He
It's
wields
a
it like
dagger.
a
Yeah,
machete.
it's a dagger.
Okay, you say dagger, but that thing when he hold it, it's about as long as a machete.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Let's
looks
be
like
honest.
it's a short sword, but in
short
like
sword, but
game
I
stats
think
it'd be called a dagger.
it's called a dagger, but it's a
Right.
short sword. I agree with you there.
So it's like even if he didn't cut off their heads, just getting touched by that thing, you were fated to die. So I mean, was our character really kind of OP for them? Heck, yes. And why they decided again after you seen this dude get back up? Why?
Hey,
I
baseball,
don't.
man. 3 strikes, you're out. They tried to
They
kill
they
him 3
struggle.
times.
Well,
Yeah, yeah. Um, Deon, do you kind of agree with Chris and what he's saying about this, or do you have a different take on it?
Not at
let him
all.
catch his breath.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't agree with Chris at all.
He never does.
No,
Sometimes.
not at all. I know why they stood there and expected this man to walk towards them, and they were still overconfident. They literally made this man carry their bags. This is their plan from day one.
Yeah.
He's the worst. He even said it. The guy, the sorcerer himself, was like, "This is the worst hunter ever." Like
Yeah.
his nickname is the worst hunter.
Of
So not
mankind.
only are they like shocked and surprised that he got back up, they're like, "Oh, it ain't gonna take much to get him back down again." But when the first head rolled, this is the time to run.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, bro. Can we just talk about this, bro? This now we see you're the one who took. This is my thing. The first thought process was the Duntuck guy or
Mhm.
the young guy took out the boss. Good armor, cool. He took out the boss. But when you see one of your strongest teammates heads roll, because it said like 3 of them were C
C.
ranks and 2
They're
of them
C
were
ranks.
D ranks or something. When
Yep.
you see the other C rank head roll, the only other 2 is the magic user and the leader. When you see this guy's head roll, you should know, all right, he killed the boss that I said I couldn't do by myself. Time to go.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's it. There's a lot of things that kind of built up to this point where you're like, wait a minute, everything y'all thought doesn't make much sense. Y'all act like there's nothing here. Like these guys are nothing. But now you kind of like, oh well, we got played. Um I will explain this part because it is kind of weird. They do the jump cut. They do a jump cut from after he does all the fighting, we destroy the rest of the team, to the point we get to see him outside. So in the manhwa, it is called The Promise. And it's the first like 9 minutes of the manhwa on Spotify. You can find it. It's pretty easy to find. Book 2 or book 1, excuse me, chapter 7. There's a long conversation between Jinnu and Jinho. And that conversation just boils down to the fact that Jinho's like, what did I witness? Why is he doing this? What's his true purpose? And ultimately, they get the rest of the crystals, all that kind of stuff. And the thing that's the real crux of that little scene is something you don't really have to show because you kind of already showed partially. Is Jinnu takes one of the guy's shields. I think one of the sword guys on the rest of the guild had a shield. He throws the shield to show that he has all this power and throws it against the wall and breaks. Ultimately, I get why they took out the conversation, but it feels really weird when you think about it because the ultimate thing with the time jump, but also what they also did, they do the thing where you see the rocks kind of break up in the sky in the dungeon. Well, that's like it's rumbling, so it's about to close. we see in that little section I listened to, it does it about 4 times. It's mentioned 4 times. It's about the Rumble, so they need to get out of there. Also, him calling him boss, technically they put it in the place where it did in the anime because it happens later. It doesn't happen right away. It happens like at the back half of all this fighting of him killing everybody. So I think that's also kind of interesting. On top of that, the everything else, the lady is kind of lady makes sense. She also asks all the questions. The rain stuff makes sense. I think it's interesting.
That
The other
happened
part,
later too.
yeah, that happens a little later. But all the other stuff that is mentioned, they mention the fact he gives all those crystals to Jinu when they leave. He's gonna give them to all the Jinu anyway. So that and Jinu finds the money on the dude. That's the cash. So we had the cash on him. He had the 2 million. I think it was like 2 million won on it.
That's the part
That's the one thing that I didn't really get. I'm like, you don't show the fact he has someone on him, but ultimately, that's context without you don't need the context if you understand these are bad people anyway. So you kind of think, oh, he didn't have the money on him. Fine. But ultimately, they say in the manhwa, oh no, he had the money on him. So literally, Jinwoo takes it.
So wait a minute. So are you guys technically giving spoilers?
No,
because all of this happened in between Hair Bun Lady showing up and
correct.
him dying.
Him dying
in the manhwa, and there's more details in the manhwa than there is in the webtoon
in the show,
but it still definitely shows all of this before Hair Bun Lady shows up.
So Chris, technically, it is not a spoiler because they end up just giving you the bits and pieces you need to know. They end up doing the Rumble where the thing is about to close. They do it once to prove you that it's about to close, so they need to get out of there. Him calling him boss and giving him the water after the spider fight, that happens
and hitting
later.
The stones.
Hitting the stones, that happens later.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing they do, I think Jin Ho asked, wait, are you sure you can take someone by yourself? Are you crazy? Like, he asked all these questions. We don't get to see that whole conversation right before that. So technically, no, but technically the one thing they also do, they give you that information, but in different places. And I think that's the weird thing is they give you the information, but it's in weird places and it connects better it connects okay in the anime, but it really connects better in the manhwa or the webtoon.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
I feel like this goes back to what I was saying in the very first episode that these episodes should be longer.
Yeah.
Because that type of information, it's not necessarily crucial, but it makes the time jumps and all that stuff make more sense together, and it gives you more context to the show. Because I hate to.
So you guys collectively agree that these episodes should probably be like at least 45 minutes.
I ultimately think with not every episode. So episode 5 shouldn't have been 45 minutes, but episode 1 and 2 probably should have been an hour combined. Episode 6 should at least be about 35 minutes ultimately to add everything else in. The other thing too, which I thought was kind of interesting, they tease something at the end with the guy in his underwear, but that doesn't come up till later in the manhwa or the webcomic. So basically, they're teasing something later down the road that doesn't really make sense till we get to a couple, like 5 episodes down the road, like 3 or 4 episodes down the road.
It only does because of the fight that just happened.
Correct, and that's the thing. They're teasing it because it's the fight that just happened has a connection to it, but I'm not gonna tell you that connection till we get to that point.
Nope, that's a spoiler.
So and that is a spoiler. But I think that's funny because that's a cliffhanger, which is not a great cliffhanger. And Chris, I like most cliffhangers. This cliffhanger is kind of weird when you don't have the context.
Well, both of y'all know me pretty well. I'm pretty good at predicting how animes go.
Yeah.
So
I'll say this though.
I kind of more or less know.
Yeah, you kind of get the context if you're watching.
Yeah, you probably get this.
You
made a gripe about this before with this particular anime. I'm not gonna say what it was because it'll be another spoiler. But if you think about it, you'll get that.
You know what? I think I was already riding on that wave. So
yeah, I think you were at that point. I mean, I hope I'm only giving the context in the manhwa because I can tell where things are missing or things have been moved. It's interesting. I usually wouldn't do it naturally. And I told Chris the other night when we watched the first time we watched it, I told him that I wouldn't do it naturally. But the reason I'm doing it because most people have read the manga or looked up the webcomics or even for the most part tried to find the light novel that's based on. So ultimately, this isn't spoilers because the manga's been out for so long. The webcom's been out for so long. I think the thing is when people come back and watch it, they're like, oh, and I said this to Chris when we watched it, and I'll say it again. I think this will be the episode a lot of people are gonna go try to find the webcomic or the manhwa or the light novel. Or the webcomic, the manhwa, or the light novel. And try to find out what's going really on. They want to continue reading. It's gonna be
Well,
hard if
I'm
you're
not gonna let temptation win.
no,
I'm not gonna let temptation
which
win.
I don't
No,
blame you.
no.
Which I
We
don't
need a subjective party.
which
'Cause
I
we
agree
have
with.
the webcomic, we have the manhwa, and we have straight anime. So
Straight
we need
anime
the
only.
subjective comic. Yeah.
But I also would say this: if you're gonna keep doing a thing where you give me little teases of information through other scenes and it builds into something, I'm cool with that. I like the fact you're doing the story stuff like you are. I agree with Chris though. If it's gonna be just something like a fight, I'd rather you showed us the full fight. Actually, with the old man and his assistant, I get why they showed us that little sparring thing, but it's only one line that makes sense. That's necessary for that fight. That fight is when he says, "Ugly humanity's ugly. Humanity has an ugly side." Basically, just saying there's always bad apples. That's the only quote. That's the only thing necessary. That's the
In
real.
defense of A1, they never interrupted a fight for a cutscene.
They didn't. You're right. They actually didn't. They let a fight go through and then do it. So I actually agree with the way they're doing it here for the most part. If you keep doing that, I'm fine with that.
I had that problem before. I was upset. I'm like, I don't want these cuts in the middle of my fight. Or I forgot which one we were. I think it was MASH, where it came back and we were talking. I'm like, no, finish the fight.
Finish the fight.
But they did it where they let the fight go through and then you get your cutscene.
So I'm going to ask you gentlemen this, and I'll start off with Chris. What would you give Solo Leveling episode 6? We're at the halfway point of this anime. And also, what would you give the halfway point of this anime as well? Chris, give me both of those for me.
You really want me to lay it on thick? All right.
Go ahead.
All right. For the episode,
all right,
as being the anime only watcher, I give it a 9.5. It was good. I enjoyed every bit of it. Every bit of it.
What is that 5.5%? I'm wondering.
Is it just the fact that at the halfway point of the anime is still so much that's left unsaid and so much that's still a mystery.
Okay. All right. That's fair. And then for the halfway point as a whole, what would you give it?
8.6.
Okay. Is there a specific reason, or is there just?
It's so this anime is very good. It's very well thought out, well drawn out, and at the halfway point is timing as well. It's good.
Okay.
But compared to the other animes that are out this season, it's got some stiff competition. So there are other animes that I like better than this particular episode or this particular season right now.
Okay. All right.
Give me
Fair enough.
one.
Say it again.
Give me one.
As in give you one that I like better right now?
Yeah.
Honestly, I like Magic and Muscles.
Okay.
You're fired. No.
I actually thought he wouldn't go Magic Muscle. I thought he might go Shane Solder, maybe
Shangri-La.
I would have thought he might have said, but I can give Magic Muscles. That's one I give.
But no, only reason I enjoy Magic and Muscles a little bit more, and if it's the halfway point for Magic and Muscles, I will only give that maybe a 8.7.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, because there are some points that didn't make sense, but overall, they have a really good mix of action and comedy that I do enjoy.
Okay.
Deon, same question to you. What would you rate? What would you rate Soul Level episode 6, and what would you rate the halfway point of Soul Level as well?
Deleting the webtoon out of my head because it would go down based off of that. Simply because it has so much more detail in it than the anime. Um, but deleting it, enjoying the anime for what it is, I'm gonna give it a 10.
Oh,
I'm gonna give it a 10.
all right,
Um,
all right.
and the reason why is last week I knew exactly what this anime was going to do. I knew that last week's episode was a ramp up anime or ramp up episode, and this episode did not disappoint in that.
Okay.
It was a great continued on episode. It still gave people a little bit of story. It gave people more context to the actual world, but it kept what we wanted out of it, which was the fighting, which was the character building, the growth. You know, I'm a big main character growth person, and we see that switch, that light bulb on Janu going into this monstrous scorpion mode, and now it's like a great development versus the first episode, like
Okay.
from there to now.
Okay.
Um, as far as halfway point of the anime in a whole, I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Okay. So lower than Chris. Yeah,
Yeah,
lower than Chris.
yeah, I'm a
Interesting.
big critic on timing. I'm a big critic on the story development. And although I do love how the back end of this half is developing the story, I still can't get over the fact that the first two episodes should have been one episode. Still can't get over the fact that even 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 could have been one episode. You know, like they could have been longer episodes. I wish six was longer. We would have gotten a little bit more detail without having to do the skips around with the cutscenes. It's don't get me wrong. A1 is doing a very good job with this development. Way better than sorry, Chris. Way better to me than Magic and Muscles.
Fair
But
enough.
it's it's still not giving everything it could give. It's still not giving. I want to see 15 seasons of this. It's not giving One Piece energy. It's not giving, even Demon Slayer energy, where it's like I can't wait for this to keep going. Um, so
This this is interesting to me because I'm like you, Dion. I have to throw them on while because I've been listening to the first. I finished the first book, and I know what's gonna happen. So I throw this out. I have to throw it out. On this episode alone, I agree with both of y'all. This episode is 10. But think that's I think that's because I think they did something very interesting, and you don't have to. And I think it's a thing that people say about the show, which I kind of think is kind of ludicrous. Sorry to both the man's name, but still, I think it's ludicrous. Um,
you're gonna pop up in your living room.
yeah, uh,
Luda.
like I think it's funny to me because everybody talks about, and it's been touted a couple times where people are like, "Oh, this show is just action. All you care about is the action." Au contraire. Hold on a
Mhm.
second. You cannot tell me this is just everybody cares only about the action. They did 3 story plots in this episode, and all 3 made sense. You gave me the head of the guild and the assistant, where the guild guy says basically humans are ugly. Humans have an ugly side to them. That's one, and that leads into what we see with Janu on the back half of this episode. 2, you gave me those girls all sitting at the coffee shop talking about what they do. The A rank hunter, basically saying the S rank hunter is so strong. She one shotted. She did a dungeon by herself, but the A rank couldn't hold her candle to her. What do we see in the reverse? Jinnu taking on a spider boss by himself. And number 3. And it's actually 4. And I only didn't mention the one. I'm not going to mention the last one because it doesn't really fully make sense with this episode, but it makes sense for something else. The third one is something you don't normally do, but you did it well enough for me. Jinnu already knew about these guys being kind of weird. He had a hunch. Like Deon's mentioned in the other episodes, his normal instincts are really good.
Yep.
But like I mentioned as we're watching it, his normal instincts combined with the system is really good. So we already had something to know when something was up. So then, flip that script on its head, and Jinnu basically was like, you know what? I'm not taking this anymore. I'm going to do what I have to do to finish this fight. On top of it all, they even do one more for you. And it's in the last part of this episode. When it starts raining outside, he literally says, I'm glad I gave my sister that umbrella, which is the tie back to to episode 5.
Yep. And it shows that his humanity isn't 1,000% gone.
Gone.
He still has love and care after just murdering. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I was thinking the exact same thing. It's funny to me. On top of that, I gave you 4 examples. I'll give you one more. The character dialogue in this, the way the characters interact with each other. You had the head of this guild almost to the very end deny that Jinwoo was that strong, until he's on his back staring at Jinwoo, and he has nothing left to say.
Well, he can't say nothing.
Correct. That's character development. That's the fact that he's outmatched.
Yep.
And to the point where Jinwoo's like, you know what? You could have paid me 4 times the money. Ultimately,
You was 3 times too late.
I'm getting a t-shirt that just says 3 times on it.
Like, you tried to kill me 3 times. And then I'll give you one more for the road. Ultimately, the other thing they do in this, the music.
Oh yeah.
I need to go find that. I'm gonna go find that song by sometime tomorrow.
Please
look
do.
At the song.
Let me
look
know.
at the song. Look at the song and send it in the group. Because the way they did the music, the start of the fight, we hear the first part. We hear the song at the beginning where he kills the other 5 dudes. It stopped for a second. Then they just play a light piano tone when he's up close to that main guy. Then once he knocks the main guy to the back, it kicks back in. That's a good way to do music and keep tension. Like, if you're just thinking this is mindless action, you need to go reevaluate this show, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll give you this. I agree with Deon. 1 and 2 should have been together. 3 and 4 should have been together. 4 and 5 should have been together. But ultimately, for the halfway point of this season, and this might sound crazy coming from me, just watching the anime, I have to give it a 10. Let me repeat myself. I have to give it a 10. Because ultimately, what you've done is you have a good character story. You have a good understanding what the system's about. Also, have done the thing that most animes don't do very well. You've done the thing where he has a physical change. How they show it? All the nurses won his number because he looked amazing. Okay, you can believe that. But what's the one that made it really simplify? His own sisters going, what changed? Okay. And I have to leave. I'm sorry. I have to go. But something, she didn't know what's going on. The second thing, I appreciate the fact you're giving us the S rank stuff. And here's why. At least you're showing us other powers in the world. Most animes don't do a good job of that because you leave us with the character who has the weakest power, or when he comes to becoming stronger, he has nothing to go up against. You gave us a 1-to-1 comparison. You actually gave us a 3-to-1 comparison if you want to count the headman. That's hard to do and make it make sense. You have. And also, you left us with a cliffhanger that most anime fans probably won't understand because it has you don't know why he looks out the window like that, looking seeming mad. But it will come up and they will tie it back together. I have to give them this credit, and it's gonna be evoke something I'm gonna say because I know Chris probably looking but say I'm crazy. This Chris reminds me of Dead Mountain Death Play. In the sense that ultimately you're giving us story stuff, you're answering some questions, leaving some questions unanswered. You're giving us some comparisons. Dead Mountain Death Play did
But
that as well. Go
now,
ahead.
me and you have had this conversation,
I know we
and
have.
this is probably the first time Deon has heard it. But you know what show I always say I can watch. If I watch this show, I pretty much know what this show is gonna do.
And the comparison is Shangri-La.
There it is.
Well, can I make my comparison?
Go ahead.
What you got?
Y'all might hate me for saying this.
We already hate each other. What's up?
The first
Yeah.
the way this first half of this season is playing out, it reminds me of the first arc of season 2 of JJK.
Oh, I actually can't disagree with that. I sadly can't disagree with that, which is kind of hard
Well
to believe.
played. Well played.
Like,
The first episodes could have been one episode put together. The
Yup.
storytelling is in and out of the action scenes. The main character, you following him solely with the other characters kind of built in around him, but it's not even telling his full story yet. Is all situational. You get the people relying on him, like the girl from the first the one that was about to get sacrificed.
yeah.
It's all playing out like that, and I'm looking at Gojo when I look at Jinhee. I'm looking at like a Gojo starter story.
I'm gonna take you one step further, Deon. And it's funny because it's not something I would have done. Guess who had its breaking point during that first part of that arc? Not Gojo, but his best friend.
Geto.
Geto got broke because he saw the girl die right in front of him.
Yeah.
What did we just see with Jinnu? You just broke a man that saw the ugly side of what this job is. And now he has no remorse, no care outside of his sister and family. And now he's on a path of becoming one of the strongest hunters in solo leveling.
Yep. That's what I see, man. And you guys know how hard I ride for JJK.
It's not a bad comparison. It's not.
Like,
Because I could say the same thing about Pokey from Dead My Death Play. The man wanted peace. What ended up happening? He was about to go to the dark side.
yeah.
Well, I can say Shangri-La for obvious reasons.
Correct. Like this is not nothing new. But ultimately, I think the thing is you have to see everything outside of just fighting. And that's going to be the thing I think this show is going to have a hard time combating because all the fights look really good. And like Chris said, the spider fight's about a 7. Au contraire, once we get down in the next couple, like book 2, in a book 1, these fights are going to get a lot more interesting.
Oh, and let me say this about that fight. It was a 7, but it wasn't even the main fight of the show.
No, it's not. Nope.
It
The other
can't
one.
outdo the other fight.
Correct. It cannot do the
You
actual
can't
fight.
make that fight a 10 and then make the other fight like a 9.5. You can't do that. So they had to dial that fight back.
Ultimately, what I'm gonna say, keep on this journey with us. I want to see where this ends up for all four of us. Because you're getting three different perspectives. You're getting a guy in Chris who's just watching the anime. You're getting a guy in Deon who's going through the webtoon. And you're getting a guy in myself who's listening to the manhwa. And yet, it's interesting, we all came to the same conclusion. This story is good, but they're at comparison things from other anime. And yet the other anime we're comparing it to, you can see the comparisons right off the bat. And does it really? It's not hard to believe that. I'm calling this now, gentlemen. This will be in the top 3 next time we look at the charts. If it's not, I'll be thoroughly surprised because I think what's going to end up taking it down is the one thing that people can't really get their mind around: the story and that cliffhanger. If those are two things people can't get their mind around, that's why it's not going to be at the top. Outside the mind is that if the action makes it there, fine. But if it's the story and stuff that can get people to the top, then you have a thing of, man, y'all haven't really looked into what this story actually is.
They did this with JJK too.
Yes, they did.
When you see my man's sitting on top of the tower and you don't know who he is, and it's like, what? So
Yeah, but
just keep that in mind when you're watching.
Every other episode, though.
Yeah, Dev definitely did it a couple times in the multiple episodes. And
Oh,
Shangri-La.
I mean,
Shangri-La's done it a couple times where they left you with cliffhangers with things. You're like, wait, where's this coming
that's
back?
like, bro, the
Yeah, I
last
didn't
3
do
episodes
Pentagon
of
yesterday.
Shangri-La were all cliffhangers.
They're all yeah.
Shangri-La did those last 3 episodes really good, though, by the way.
Yeah, they did.
Yes,
they did. This was episode 43 of the Anime Dojo. I hope y'all come back. I hope y'all continue on this journey with us. Because even though I think this is getting its hype from a good place, I want to see where this stuff settles. Because this is one of those higher thinking anime. And a lot of people don't like to do those because they're kind of hard to continue watching sometimes without something to break that monotony. The fights are the breaking the monotony, but the story is there for you to follow. We'll be back with episode 7 of Solo Leveling and episode 7 of Magic and Muscles. Magic and Muscles took off a week this week. I didn't mention at the beginning because of they did a Valentine's thing. They'll be back next week. But think about the fact you have 2 shows, one that's pretty much action and the other is comedy. One that makes you turn your brain off because the comedy is supposed to be kind of silly and out there. By the way, Chris sent me a thing it's a 1-to-1 recreation of the first movie of Harry Potter on Instagram. There was a thing about that. That was kind of interesting.
I sent that to both of y'all. Yeah,
you sent it to both of us, and that was interesting. then you have the other who's at the level of, like we said, Down My Death Play, JJK, or something that's out right now that people are having a hard time continuing with. High School of the Elite. Because all 3 of those have very high understanding of you have to look at every single detail, the background, what's going on in the background, what's the music playing, what is the dialogue, what specific dialogue you can take out of that. I've said this with Demo Death Play a bunch of times. There's just random dialogue in some episodes that don't make sense, but they have 1 line or 2 lines that tie everything back together. Yeah. And that's all you need. We'll see what happens in episode 44, or in when we do episode 44, and what we think after this episode. Because I think we're about to slow down again for both these shows, but we'll see. So I do thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy. I'll put this up on YouTube on Thursday. This will go up on Spotify pretty much after it processes. I do thank these 2 gentlemen for joining me, and hope you from next time. See you.
Peace.
Deuce.